If you would like to get my free preset pack for Lightroom, there's a link in the description below. Today we're talking about the two new lenses for the Nikon Z series. Welcome to the studio. We spent yesterday at the Canon road trip in Toronto. If you're in Canada, and maybe I feel like they've already left Toronto, but they're going back to Montreal, I believe. They're going east and they're going west. So if you're in Canada and you want to try out an R5 or an R6 or whatever, you can head out to the road trip and you can try whatever strange and unusual combinations you want. We tried the 600 F11, which is one of the new lenses, with a 2-time teleconverter, so 1200 on an R5, to see how good the handheld IBIS with the lens stacking IS works in the field. And quite honestly, you can handhold video at, you shouldn't, but you could. But this is what that shot looks like at 5 kilometers from your subject, the CN Tower, 5 kilometers away, and no problem handheld here. Today, we're gonna talk about the two new Nikon lenses, the Nikon lenses that have come out, Nikon 1.2 S, which is they're both for the Z series. So it's a 51.2 and then also a super wide at 2.8. So they came out with the 14 to 30, which was the F4 version. And now they've replaced it with the 14 to 24 F2.8, which is great. I feel like as far as what I guess the difference is, so the kit lens, it came with the Z6 kit, the Z7 kit, is the 24 to 70 F4, which is a really, really phenomenally great lens. And when you're using it, you really see no reason to upgrade to the 2.8. But then when you do upgrade to the 2.8, you see that you should have done that upgrade a lot faster. I would suspect that the same thing is going to stay true to this wide zoom as well, that you don't really know what you're missing until you actually get it in the field and start shooting with it. That said, it's going to be very expensive though, so is it worth the upgrade for you if you're not professionally shooting something that requires that wide angle 2.8 in low light? If you're not out there shooting astro all the time, it might not be. So let's talk about the 50mm f1.2 first. What do you know about awkward pauses?
It's pretty much the same weight as the Canon version. I like the Canon version. That's what we used yesterday. It's very nice. I have maybe not an issue, but I just don't prefer the 50mm focal length. I prefer 85 or 35, and I usually skip over the 50. So for me personally, I would say that the F1.8 version of the 50 that came out a little while ago that I've been super, super happy with, I would say that that is the 50 that would remain in my kit personally, that I wouldn't be upgrading yet to the 1.2. I would maybe be waiting for, I pretty much just wanted a 1.4 version rather than releasing the 1.8 and then the 1.2. If they just only would have given us a 1.4, I would have been very, very happy. Same goes with the 85, same goes with the 35. That's really all I want. I feel like there's a balance in the weight and the amount of glass required to go into something like a 1.4, and I understand it doesn't utilize the full technology of the new mount and the size and everything, but I really don't necessarily require that in any of my work. And as a lot of you know, I really do rely heavily on shallow depth of field, not as a negative thing. I know that a lot of people kind of speak negatively to that it's like, oh, just abusing that tona. But for me, I need it on a wedding day because I don't have control of my surroundings, and I can try to frame things out, but if I can just make people in the background that are on their phones during the first dance just disappear into just like nice soft out of focus area, that is a tool that I absolutely 100% need. So I rely heavily on that. I shoot a lot. If you watch any of my behind the scenes wedding days, I'm pretty much at, I guess, 1.2 now on the 85 for Canon, which is a huge telescope as well. Or in the past videos, I've always pretty much been at 1.4 unless there's a reason to stop down. Again, I just like to have that control over my background, and I also just like the feeling that it creates as well with the old Nikon digital SLR primes. It really does create something that just feels really nice as an end image. So talking about size, it looks pretty much like it is the 24 to 70 f2.8, so it's a big lens. So that's something to be aware of. Also, the sample images that they released they're fine, but I don't think that they fully show what this lens is capable of. So I'm interested, I'll do my best to get an early copy of it just to kind of test out and to do a few shoots with. The sad part, I guess, with release time is that it's likely going to be out maybe by the looks of things in December, which means they're going to miss a Christmas market, so it's not going to sell maybe as heavily as it could have. But the other downside for me living in the Northern Hemisphere is that all my weddings are pretty much done by the end of November. So this is a lens that if I were to purchase it would be purchased for kind of next year. and I just don't have a whole lot of shoots coming in over the winter, so that's a bit unfortunate. Things might have been slowed down due to the world situation, but I am happy that it exists, but I do wish that it just would have been a 1.4 rather than a 1.8 and also a 1.2. The other thing I guess that is maybe not super important for this, but I am appreciative that they put in, is actually the focus chart, the OLED or whatever it is, the display that's in there. I didn't realize how helpful that was. It's more so helpful, I would say, on the lens that we're gonna talk about next, the 14 to 24, but it is nice to have it, and I'm happy that it's there because it's not on my Canon RF series. Will I buy this 51.2? I don't think so. If the 50 is all that I have to work with and a new Z series camera, the rumor sites are full of the Z6S or whatever, the Z8 that might be coming out next. If that does come out, I will likely get this lens just to test out and to see kind of how that system all works together. I suspect that it's going to be fantastic, and again, the thing that I like the most about Nikon and their lenses is that they do put a lot of thought into the art as well as the technical design. So usually the way that lenses or Nikon lenses pull images together is a little bit different, and it feels more artistic than say the Canon RF series, which is, I would say, much more clinical. That yes, you can shoot at 1.4, but it's like, cool, that looks like a great image. With the Nikon one, it has a different feeling to it that I can't quite explain, and I know that that's the, like, oh, you should try medium format because the medium format look and the way, oh, I can't explain it. But the way that I think the Nikon lenses pull the tones and the contrast and everything together, it feels really, really nice. So I'm excited for no other reason than to try it for that. And then also, as somebody that does photo video coverage at weddings, I'll speak to that quickly here. The ease of use with the Z series and all the Z series cameras that have come out, it's very, very easy to switch between photo and video. And I really, really love that. With the Canon, well, with the R6, it makes it, there's a feature that's left out that basically I just can't hit the record button, or it launches me into automatic video, which means that if it's bright outside, maybe I'm shooting at f11 all of a sudden. With the Nikon series, it's a very quick switch, and I really, really enjoy shooting hybrid coverage with it, and I find it almost, not impossible, but very difficult on the R6, and the R5 just becomes wildly expensive for things that I don't need in order to enable that record button to be able to give me manual video, rather than switching the little dial on the top on the R6. So if you're looking for a hybrid camera, whatever is coming next from Nikon, even the Z5 I've been super happy with. The Z5, the product kind of map that I see in my head is that I purchased the Z5 and I know that that's going to become a backup camera at some point whenever they release the new, whatever the new thing's going to be. Again, maybe I should preface this with that there are videos that I've worked with Nikon on the channel, but I know absolutely nothing of their product line whatsoever, unfortunately. The next lens is the 14 to 24 F2.8, which is surprisingly smaller than the 50mm, but it comes with a bit of a comedic caveat where the filter size, Travis posted this in the members group this morning. I'll see if I can pull up the pricing here. The circular polarizing filter, if you want to buy the Nikon version of it, you don't have to, you can buy other versions of it. But I thought it comes in at a comical $680 US, so if you're Canadian, that's even more expensive. It's like a $1,000 filter, $1,000 plus CPL if you're looking for the Nikon branded version, or $420 for just the neutral color NC filter, which I don't think you really need. So that CPL, that might be nice, but probably don't buy the Nikon one because that's quite expensive. So a bit unfortunate that it's that large, but I'm sure it's great. It's also nice that you can actually do a screw-on filter with it, although I would maybe, if you do want to be shooting at that 14, 15, 16 millimeter side of that lens and you have a screw-on filter, you will maybe look into testing of people that have actually used it with filters, because you're probably going to experience some vignetting. Same goes with the 14 to 30 that they already have out now. That said, if you're a landscape photographer, so this I would say is a lens for if you're interested in astrophotography. I would say that this is a fantastic lens for you, and it might be one worth picking up. Interior photography, photographing dark spaces, super wide angles, I'm gonna say that's also something for you. As myself, as a wedding and portrait shooter, I would say that this lens is pretty unnecessary, and I'm happy to stick with my 14 to 30. For landscapes, when I'm usually out photographing landscapes, F4 is totally fine for me. If I'm going wide angle, I know that everything is going to be in focus, and the technical of that lens, the 14 to 30 F4, is fantastic. And then the one selling sentence that they have here is that it's the world's shortest and lightest full frame f2.8 zoom lens with a 14mm field of view, which basically means that it's shorter and lighter than the Sony 12 to 24, because Canon's the 15 to 35 doesn't quite go to 14, so they win by a small technicality there, I suppose. So that is all I have to say about these two new lenses. I really am excited about the future of the Z series, and I'm hoping that those 1.4 primes do maybe eventually ever come out. I feel like they might not, because if there's already a 1.2 and the F1.8 version, it might just never exist, unfortunately. But that means that there is an opportunity for a third party like a Tamron to come in and build that 85 1.4 and that 35 1.4, like we've kind of seen happening with the Canon R series. Samyang and a few others are starting to get into that space and making lenses that are native mount to those cameras. I actually just got the 14mm f2.8 Samyang for the Canon R, and in my initial testing, it looks great. In my testing outside with hot highlights exposed out here out of focus, it's not so good, but we'll get more into that, and I'm happy to see that there are third-party manufacturers getting into the spaces already, because that is something that's really just going to push the sales of either of the camera bodies further into the future, and open up those development dollars, and to show that there is demand for certain lenses, so that Nikon and Canon can actually develop for them. So that is all my thoughts for today. Hope you have a great day. I'll see you again tomorrow, maybe. Let's call it tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow. Don't forget to grab those free presets if you're interested. Free preset pack, link in the description below.